Let's give Bob a hand.
Everybody stand up a little bit, because I know you've been sitting for like 40 minutes. Yeah, it's really brutal. I don't think you need that stretch. Let me know when you feel a little bit better now. I'm trying not to run it too long. Okay, you can all sit down. You know, I'm gonna start off today, and I'm gonna tell you a little bit about myself. And the reason I'm gonna do that is I'm hoping that it may give me a little bit more credibility than just Tom saying something about me. And it all ties in together anyway. But basically, when I meet somebody, I always ask them, what is it that you do for a living? And a lot of times people will say, well, I'm an accountant at Jones Day, or maybe I'm a server at Denny's. And what this does, it gives me an idea of, number one, what they do for a living, what their friends are like, you know, maybe where they're associating, how much money they make. Because you know a server at Denny's is not going to be a prime candidate for $100,000 of investment. Well, maybe, but generally. But more than that, it leads to further questions, maybe some kind of common interest that we could establish a relationship with these people. If I told you today that I was an accountant, a musician, a politician, a restaurateur, a cook, and a salesman, what would you see? We kind of do stereotype people in roles. If I asked you guys, what do you do? You're New York life agents. So I already know that with you guys in this room. But today, I'm actually all those things. So I'd like to tell you not only what I do, but also a little bit about who I am. But even then, it's only a perception of what I tell you, because I'm only going to tell you the good things about me, and I'm not going to tell you all the bad things. When I look at...
You said you are a politician.
He actually ran for mayor, too.
Yeah, we'll get into that. Actually, I'm an entrepreneur who loves the journey perhaps more than the arrival of a goal or an achievement. You know, when I listen to Zig Ziglar a lot, he always says, if you reach for the stars, you never end up with a handful of mud. Unfortunately, I've ended up with a lot of mud in my life, but I've also had a lot of good successes. About me personally, you know, sometimes I cry when I see a movie about someone who overcomes great obstacles and achieves success. It really touches me. Over the years, though, I've always come to believe that it's what you think and who you are comes out during any kind of presentation that we do. And I just lost my place. Because I'm going a little bit too fast here for you guys. I'm trying to tie everything into insurance. Because actually, I'm really, I guess, an overachiever. And just to get into a little bit about my insurance history, back in the early day, a lot of insurance companies place your self-worth on your numbers. You know, obviously I was looking at the numbers, and some of those numbers are really great. You have high numbers and low numbers. It's not to say that the low numbers that's what you're worth. As an individual, you're worth an awful lot. And just because you're low one month doesn't mean that you're going to be low all the months. But with Prudential, what I did is I worked really hard. I just put my head down and continued to work. At the end of the year, I ended up with 180 life sales, and I ended up being 169 in the United States out of 27,000 agents, which is a pretty big goal. Now, a lot of people ask, how come you're not doing that consistently? You know, if you did so great in the insurance industry, why aren't you still in the insurance industry? Well, actually, I still am. I'm just not a superstar producer like I used to be. As you get older, you slow down a little bit. But I'll tell you one thing about this business, that you can accomplish any dream, anything that you want to accomplish with this business. And that, I really believe that in my heart. And I have done some great things. I wrote a book called The Power of Home Business Strategies. I had an opportunity to speak for Entrepreneur Magazine in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I owned 2 restaurants. One was a little family restaurant in Parma Heights. The second was the New Orleans Showboat, which was a larger $2 million project. So right there, just to own a $2 million restaurant from an insurance agent to a $2 million owner is pretty good. Of course, I did lose it after 2 years, so we don't want to get into that side of the story, but you can accomplish anything that you want to do. In the political realm, I did run for mayor of Parma, which is the 9th largest city in Ohio. I ran against Shapiro and Lyon. And you know, I don't know what I'd do if I ever won, but I did run the race. That was one of my goals. I ran for state rep, I ran for council, I ran for mayor. But that's not really what I wanted to do. The race was the more exciting thing than actually winning it. Besides, I always had insurance, and I do taxes. The reason I do taxes is because back in Prudential, I used to work with a guy, and he used to say, stop here, stop there, stop there. And we were making sales like crazy. And I said, well, how do you know these people? How do you have such a relationship with them? And he says, well, I do their tax, and I've been doing it for about 30 years, so I know these people, and he was a brand new agent at the time. So I decided that's what I want to do. I want to have a little annuity. So I've built a tax practice that's well over 1,000 families that I do personally. During tax time, I work from 5 in the morning till 10 at night consistently, straight through. But that's for 10 weeks, and then I take 40 weeks off. The point is that that's my annuity, is I could be in a wheelchair and still do their tax and make money. As far as sales go, with the insurance industry, I don't do anything really super fancy with these people because there's not a lot of time. In 40 minutes, you got to get them in and out. Basically, my selling approach is, do you want to buy some insurance? Sounds kind of stupid, but it actually works. I sell probably about 20 policies a year just from a stupid question like that. Do you want to buy some insurance? Nobody asked them. There's nobody out there asking. Since the debit system went away, since agents, companies aren't really into agents, I'm assuming, like they used to be back in the day, that there's nobody asking. And people don't go out and buy life insurance. It has to be sold one-on-one. I do know that much for sure, that hasn't changed. And if anybody calls you wanting to buy life insurance, generally there's probably something wrong with their health, I'm assuming. But over the times when we never really met, and your first impression is really important because you only have like 7 seconds to make this impression on somebody. And they're either going to like you or they're not going to like you. So the first 7 seconds, you had a choice. You either liked me or you didn't like me, which is okay because I'm from Cleveland, you're from down here, so that's all right. But the thing is this, they did a study and they said, well, what is it that makes you want to buy the decision? The results were like this. Body language was 55%. How you present yourself, your body language. They could tell if you're enthusiastic or not. They can tell if you're laid back. They can tell if you're really tight. The other was the body language, the words, and there was another thing. I can't think of it, but we'll get to it. 7% was the words, though. So it's the knowledge that you have doesn't always come through because people don't really care. They're not buying knowledge. Like Tom was saying about Google, you can get knowledge anywhere. They want to buy from you because of who you are. So that's really important. When I made 180 sales with Prudential that year, it wasn't all made and you did really great. You said you did 130 life sales? in 1 year? Oh, I thought that's what I heard.
Tom was referring to Karen.
Oh, Ken Stevens, 130, that's pretty good. Because when I did 180 life sales in 1 year, it's not all done in 1 year. You can't think of it, you know, like I'm going to do 180 sales this year. What was done? It was done 1 day at a time, one telephone call at a time, one appointment at a time. I just knew that January 1st when I woke up that I'm going to do about 100 sales. And still to this day, I still do pretty close to 100 sales every year, but January 1st, I have no idea where I'm going. I just know if I do what I'm supposed to do, at the end of the year, I'm still going to end up with over 100 sales. I can remember one sale that I was knocking on the door and I really didn't feel like, you know, going to this appointment. I was hoping and praying actually that they wouldn't answer the door. The people opened the door, I had to do the interview. I did the interview, and lo and behold, I made a couple $1,000s that night. And that taught me that always do what you're supposed to do. If you need to make a phone call, make that phone call, because that may be the phone call that the guy introduces you to the president of Honda Corporation, or whichever the company is down here. Just do what you're supposed to do. And if you have enough desire for the business and you do what you're supposed to do, things will begin to happen. It's not always the big things when you're competing. When we look at the numbers on the board, they all look pretty close. So when I look at that, I almost think of a race car driving too, because you know, first place comes in, second place comes in maybe a tenth of a second behind it, or a milligram of a second. The difference is this: first place, the guy might make perhaps 600,000. Second place, the guy only makes 200,000. So there's a big difference in money between first and second place. But you know what? When you look at the whole year, there really wasn't that big of a difference. It's just what makes one guy sell more than the other. It's that little things. It's that making that extra call. I always used to knock off at 9 o'clock when I'd make my calls, but every time I had my briefcase packed, I was ready to leave, I said, I gotta make that extra call. And that extra call makes the difference between being a superstar and a mediocre producer. It's just doing that little bit extra, staying that extra hour, just a little bit extra is all you need to do. Because we all have the same training. I mean, everyone in here is trained the same, basically. You all have the same products to sell. So it can't be the training, it can't be the products. It's got to be within the individual that makes the difference between everything. It's the commitment to the business. I wanted to go a little bit on presentation skills, because I think that's really important. I mean, in a room this size, there's a lot of successful agents. There's a lot of agents that aren't doing real well, and there's a lot of new agents. It's all over the gamut. So just to go over the presentation a little bit is probably important, I would imagine. First of all, as insurance agents, we don't get paid for social calls. And we have to keep this in mind when we go on a visit, that this isn't just to sit down and have coffee with the guy. I belong to a fraternal insurance agency as well, and the guy was in a meeting and he said, well, I just go and I just sit and have coffee with these people, and eventually the conversation comes around to insurance, or maybe it doesn't, you know, he has coffee and pie. That's a great thing to do, but when you're pushing 180 sales a year, you really don't have time to do a lot of that. You really just want to get in, get out, service your people, and make the sale. Well, I always look at it as not a social visit, it's an interview situation. It's not an appointment, it's not a sales call, because I'm really not there to make sales. I'm just there to interview the person, so to speak. And I noticed that people will either say yes or no when it comes time to do the close. But actually, when we're doing our presentation, we have the opportunity to direct the conversation whichever way we want. Sometimes I'll back off when I see that they're getting a little bit irritated and, you know, it's not going the way it needs to go. So you back off, you let them talk a little bit, and then you go back in again and you persist and you find out what the hidden objection is. Because we know that we have the best product in the world. We know that they need the product. There's just something that's holding them back, and we don't know what that is. One time when I was trying to get 100,000 from a guy, I just couldn't get it. I couldn't get it. I kept digging and digging and digging. Finally, I found out he just needed 10,000 next year, and with the surrender charge, I was selling an annuity, and with the surrender charges, he was a little bit concerned that he couldn't get the money out. After I explained to him that he could get the money out, everything went great, and the sale went forward. So had I quit before I needed to make that sale, it wouldn't have worked. You know, another thing too about persistence and desire and trying to push this, I also used to sell Kirby vacuum cleaners. I worked in Cleveland at the Matt Minucci office for Kirby, and we had the #1 office in the United States. It was so big that 60 Minutes came down and they did a piece on us. Now, we would sing every Monday morning meeting, you know, roll out the Kirby, and I noticed you guys didn't sing here at all, roll out the Tampa Bay or something, you know, it didn't happen. But during that time, I had an opportunity to meet some of the greatest salespeople there was, and there was one guy that was named Fred Greer. Fred Greer would take his equipment. We used to have a Kirby in one hand and another box of attachments on the other. Fred Greer would take that on the bus to where he was working that day and carry each box to each house. Fred Greer was, I wouldn't say #1 every week, but Fred Greer was in the top 10 every week. He sold vacuum cleaners. And I began to think, well, you know, this guy's making so much money, why is he taking the bus and, you know, walking? I found out later that Fred Greer could have taken a limo to the place where he was working at. He had that much money. The point is, he decided to stick to his roots and stick to the basics and stay on the bus because he knew he wasn't going to carry those vacuum cleaners back home. And that's the thing that motivated him. And it's the same is true with us. When I became a certified financial planner, I made less money than when I didn't know anything, when I was a single product person. And the problem was this, that I knew too much, and I would take the interview and I would go all over the board with it, because these people had so many problems. And then every problem you solve, you open up a hole for 3 more problems. So I decided that I really need to get back to the basics and just sell life insurance. That's what I do. I'm a salesman, I sell insurance. So that, I thought that was interesting. So the education is great, but it doesn't always help. I think with the conversation, when we talk about being in an interview as well, that we need to keep that conversation active. That people love to talk as well. Have you ever had a salesman come over your house, either a water purification system or some kind of salesman, and they just kept talking and talking and talking, and they wouldn't let you talk. So as a result, the guy's wondering why you didn't buy. You know, he's selling the best water, you need water, and you didn't buy the system for $800. And the thing is this, that he didn't find out what your objections were, why you didn't want it. And it's the same true with us, that we need to be able to allow people to talk and don't overtalk the situation. And keep the conversation active as well. Now, a lot of times when I talk to Tom, we go way back. He has numbers and figures and New York Life stuff, history, stats, and it's all great stuff. But I was thinking to myself, you know what? I'm not really interested in New York Life stats right now. I just want to buy some insurance. And I think the stats are good, but I think they need to be done for the sale after the sale. And that's something we miss a lot too, is, you know, how many people in here have made the big sale, then the next day the people call up and cancel. Probably everybody in this room has had that situation happen. And the problem is because we didn't cement the sale, we didn't seal it when we were there. We didn't do the sale after the sale. We were so happy that we got the signature, we got the check. They're happy at that second. The problem is those people are so happy that they're going to tell their friends now, and their friend just happens to know another insurance agent, and he comes in and tries to destroy what you did. And depending on the relationship that they have with that person, it could be a major problem. So it's important to do the sale after the sale. Send thank you letters if you get that far, but you continually want to keep saving that sale. And you also want to cement the sale with the stats on why they bought from this particular company. They bought the sale originally because of you, but now you need to shore it up and say why they bought the sale. You know, Tom had mentioned to me too about prospecting, that he wanted me to share some ideas about prospecting. You know, prospecting, that's the age-old adage, but that's why you get paid the big bucks. I mean, where else can you go and make $1,000 in 10 minutes sometimes, $50,000 in maybe 4 appointments? There's nowhere but the insurance industry. This is the best industry in the world. You make more than doctors, you make more than professional athletes, you make more than attorneys. This is the place where you write your own ticket. And the reason why I wanted to tell you about my past is because it allowed me to, this business has allowed me to do everything that I've ever wanted to do. I mean, going from writing books to speaking to owning restaurants to playing music. I used to do that for a while too. I played in a Christian rock band. We 3 years on the road, traveled all over the United States and Canada. This business has afforded me those pleasures. Had 5 homes. I mean, I keep losing them all the time, but I'm able to buy another one within a year. Now, how many people do you know can lose a house because maybe the restaurant failed or whatever, and they go out and buy another one the next year? Not too many people. This is the only business that can afford you that kind of prosperity. But anyway, prospecting, I was thinking, you know, I have my little pool that I deal with, and it's small, but it's perfect for what I want to do when I work 10 and take 40 off. The thing, if I was going to do this again, I've been talking to my clients, and I have one client that's a P&C agent, and he does Facebook a lot. Now, his Facebook friends are about 3,500, and he says he gets between 10 and 20 requests for new friends every day. I don't know, that seems high to me, but because his numbers would have been higher, but maybe he does. But he makes a decent living on Facebook. I'm trying to think how many policies he has, about 300 and some, and it took him about 4 months. So he's not doing real bad. If he hits 1,000, that's usually the mark in P&C where you're pretty much set for the rest of your life. So Facebook is a good place to start, but I've found that for my tax business, I didn't get anything. So how does it work with life insurance, with investments? I don't know. I think it all comes back to relationships. But again, Facebook is a social medium that isn't proven yet. It's going to take time. The other thing is dinners. You know, a lot of times we see American Express agents, they're always doing these investment dinners. There's another company out that's doing seminars. They're getting up speaking, doing education seminars for like churches, Lions clubs, that type of thing, where they're talking about their products, such as Tom was talking, and it's very educational, and people like that. And just from doing that, you can pick up business. I know I did a financial seminar at a church. I did a sermon on money at a church, and I had 2 people come up to me afterwards and wanted to be my client after that. So remember, is when you're doing those kind of seminars, you get a 40-minute platform, and you've already got a room full of people that you're speaking to, and you're going to nail 1 or 2 out of that for a client. The other thing would be the tax time's coming up very quickly. And how many people here work with accountants? I know my attorney, I refer probably 10 bankruptcies a year to him. the guy charges from, $2,000 to $3,000, $4,000 for bankruptcy, so he's making some serious money off me. And he hasn't given me anything back, but he's one of the best, and he does give good service, so I keep referring him. I don't do it just because the guy gives me money. So if you establish relationships with accountants, I mean, there could be another 10, 20 sales for you during the year without you having to do anything. Every individual has people that they know that you're never going to meet unless you know that person and have a relationship with them. So it's always good to think relationships rather than just use the people, get in and get out. Because I had one salesman like that. He sold probably 200-300 policies a year. They were P&C policies. And I asked him one time, I said, well, how many clients you had? And he said, about probably 3,000. I said, how many do you see a year? How many do you review? He said, none. They're all brand new people. He just keeps getting new people, and the old people he pushes aside. Well, as you get older, you slow down a little bit in this business. I don't want to work as hard as I did back 10, 15, 20 years ago. I want to just take it easy, but yet I want to have an income stream. So it's good to have a client base. I would say my tax client, these are 1,000 loyal families that I'm still building on. I still get maybe 100 people a year, new people, and they have kids, etc., and there's always business there. But I don't have to go out looking for it because we all know that it's really difficult to find new business. There was one guy, when I saw how many Western Southern agents were in here, I was amazed because I know a guy that's a Western Southern agent, and I was going to mention that earlier, that this guy is very enthusiastic, and he sells a lot of policies, and he's doing very well with it. And we all know that New York Life can blow away Western Southern. I mean, there's no comparison. So why are all these people buying Western Southern products? It's because of the guy. The guy is excited about his product. He's excited about his company. He's just excited. I mean, I almost bought one from him, and I don't. That's insane. So the point being is that do we really run out of leads, or do we run out of enthusiasm? I mean, because this guy, I would probably buy a policy if I didn't have a license to buy my own. So are we getting bored with the business? Are we slowing down a little bit because it's getting mundane? I don't know. That's something that only you can look at, and you have to look within yourself. But this is a very exciting business, and you can make a ton of money if you just lay back and renew that enthusiasm that you had for the business originally. A lot of people, we can get excited today because there's just so much going on, and you've learned a lot about the product, and you know that you can do really well at what you do, and you're ready today to do that. But what happens tomorrow? I used to go to Zig Ziglar seminars and Les Brown, and you get really pumped up that day because you're motivated and you're ready to go. And then you walk outside, and it's a dreary day like today, and then reality comes on you. You say, man, I thought I could do anything when I was in that room. I could sell $2 million, and now all of a sudden I'm in reality. I can't sell my way out of a paper bag. It's so bad. So the whole point being is that when those blank days come, and they will come, and when people slam doors in your face, and that's going to happen, they're going to say, I never made any appointment with you. Those days are going to happen. And when you lose the biggest policy that you sold all year, and they call up and cancel the next day, those things happen. Don't lose the faith that this business is still the best business in the world to be in. There's none better. I don't have any college education, but yet I've experienced so much out of life. And I think that you can do that too, that any of the dreams that you have can all be accomplished, and it's with this business. In New York Life, Tom and I go back 28 years. We both started out in the insurance industry. He went corporate and I went crazy. That's basically how. But we still ended up in the same business. Still, you know, I could have did the corporate thing if I wanted to do that. They had offered me management tons of times, but I prefer the more avant-garde or whatever.
Didn't like the dark side.
So that's basically all I have to say right now for this business. Does anybody have any questions that they might want to throw at me that just from years of being all over the board? I don't know.
Is there a comment in Toastmasters?
Yeah, Toastmasters is a great organization where you can get up and speak in front of people, and if you're going to do seminars, Toastmasters is probably the best place to be because it's $48 a year dues for 6 months. You meet once a month, once a week. It's an hour, and you just go in. They have a special agenda that they do. You learn how to get up and overcome your fear. Actually, speaking in front of people is probably one of the biggest fears that people have. I mean, it's bad enough that we're insurance agents and we, you know, have to hide that from our friends sometimes. But because they think we're going to sell, that's all we do is sell insurance. The Toastmasters is just a great organization, and I've actually gotten some sales out of Toastmasters. But the important thing to probably remember is you never join organizations to get sales. I think they come once you establish relationships. A lot of times with the multi-level marketing people, they just they want to nail you, and that kind of comes across that way. So you really need to be more relationship oriented when you do that. But it's a great organization if you want to do speaking and be a financial guru of you know, your sphere of influence. It could happen. With that, that's all I've got to say, Tom. I didn't take up that much time.
Any questions for Bob? One thing about Bob, like he says, his tax practice does wonders for developing people, and that's what, I mean, we've talked over the years that when he does tax returns, or when you see hook up, and again, he's not a CPA, he's a guy that got very well knowledge, got a lot of knowledge about doing taxes, and then he uses, what program do you use on it now?
Just a TurboTax Pro.
TurboTax Pro, but I mean, think about 1,000 people come to him, and good paying to do that, but when he does it, he knows all their information. And it's amazing, like you said, that people...
Legally, you're not allowed to use that information, just so you know.
But I still thought, you know, $100 bill here, Ben there, he's not a joke.
Oh, that was another thing I wanted to mention too about Ben Feldman with the $100 bills. Ben Feldman, the other companies that I'm with, and I always mention Ben, and nobody knows who he is anymore. His memory's fading, but Ben used to be one of the greatest salesmen in the world. And what he used to do is tear a $100 bill in half, take the half of the $100 bill and send it to a CEO, and write on a little note and say, if you want the other half, just, you know, call me. I need 20 minutes of your time. And Ben used to sell more insurance than anybody, consistently, large, very large policies, because we all know how hard it is to get past the secretary to get to the CEO. And just because a guy's a CEO, you'd be surprised how many CEOs don't even have insurance. It's something that they're so focused on their business that insurance is just not something they have. And there hadn't been an insurance agent guy or lady that's been smart enough to get past the secretary. So that's a great market to go into too. Another thing was W. Clement Stone. You know, people complain. You know, we think it's so hard out there in the insurance business. W. Clement Stone sold a lot of insurance during the Depression back in the 30s. So if he could do it, you know, can't we do it when you're in one of the richest counties in Ohio? You've really got no excuses. It really comes from within. W. Clement Stone came up with the idea if he couldn't afford $1 a week, he started doing a quarter a week, and he would go out and collect, and that's basically how the debit system got started. But those two little ideas were just ideas. You know, each one of us has ideas that we can pursue and use in this business. I think, I don't want to get anybody too motivated though, because you need to stay on the track, what you're supposed to do too. And then you can veer off every once in a while and try these ideas until one of them takes off.
By the hand.